The pain started behind his eyes, a dull throb that spread through his skull like poison, and Jackson Porter knew he was 3 weeks away from either a heart attack or a complete mental collapse. At 32, he had built one of the most successful independent film production companies in Los Angeles, greenlit projects that won awards, turned unknowns into household names, and worked every single day for the past 9 years without a real break. His assistant had found him passed out in his office at 2 in the morning, still clutching his phone, emails loading on 3 different screens around him. The doctor had been blunt, take a break or die young, so Jackson did something he had never done before. He disappeared. The beach house was perfect because it was anonymous. No one in the small coastal town of Crescent Bay knew his name, did not recognize his face from industry magazines, had no idea that the exhausted man carrying groceries up the weathered steps had a net worth that could buy half their town. The house was painted blue, had sandy floors that never quite cleaned up, and smelled like salt and old wood. Jackson dropped his bags in the bedroom and stood at the window, watching the ocean roll in with a rhythm that seemed impossibly slow compared to his life. He had no meetings, no calls, no scripts to read. The silence was so complete it made his ears ring. The girl next door was watering her garden when he first saw her. She wore cut-off jeans and a faded yellow tank top, her brown hair pulled into a messy ponytail, dirt smudged across her cheek. She was singing something off-key, completely unself-conscious, a smile on her face that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Jackson watched from his porch, coffee in hand, and felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Curiosity, maybe. Or just the recognition that someone could be that content doing something so simple. She noticed him watching and waved. "You must be the new renter. I'm Kira Walsh. I live here year-round, so if you need anything, just knock." He raised his coffee mug in acknowledgement. "Jackson. Just here for some quiet." "You came to the right place. Crescent Bay basically invented quiet." She grinned and went back to her watering. Jackson meant to keep to himself. That was the whole point of being here. But the next morning he woke to the sound of hammering and found Kira on a ladder outside her house, trying to fix a shutter that hung at a dangerous angle. The ladder wobbled. She did not seem concerned. "That does not look safe," he called over. She glanced down. "Probably not, but I've gotten pretty good at risky home repairs. Comes with the territory of owning a house by the beach." The ladder shifted again. Jackson crossed the distance between their properties without thinking. "Come down, I will hold it." She looked surprised but climbed down, her bare feet hitting the sand. Up close, she had freckles across her nose and green eyes that caught the morning light. "You do not have to help. You are on vacation." "I am here to relax, not watch someone break their neck." Kira laughed. "Fair enough. If you hold it steady, I can get this done in 10 minutes. It took 20 because the shutter was more damaged than she thought, but Jackson stood at the base of the ladder and handed her tools while she worked. She talked while she fixed things, telling him about the storm last week that had torn half the shutters off houses up and down the beach, about the local hardware store that was run by a man named Gene who had not updated his inventory since 1987, about how she had moved here 3 years ago and never regretted it once. "What do you do?" Jackson asked, genuinely curious. "I am a children's book illustrator. I work from home so I can live anywhere. I picked here because of the light and the quiet, and because no one cares if I wear the same clothes 3 days in a row." He smiled despite himself. "Sounds like a good life." "It is." She tightened the last screw and climbed down. "What about you? What do you do when you are not on vacation?" The question was innocent, but Jackson felt the weight of it. He could tell her the truth and watch her entire demeanor change, the way it always did when people knew who he was, or he could lie. He settled for something in between. I work in film, behind-the-scenes stuff, nothing glamorous. Still sounds more exciting than drawing talking animals. She wiped her hands on her shorts. Thanks for the help. Let me make you breakfast as a thank you. He should have said no. Should have kept his distance, but he had not had a home-cooked meal in months, and there was something about Kira that felt easy, safe. Sure. Her kitchen was small and chaotic, filled with sketches pinned to the walls, mugs with paintbrushes soaking in them, a cat that watched him suspiciously from the windowsill. Kira made eggs and toast and fresh coffee, and they ate on her porch overlooking the water. "So what brings you to Crescent Bay?" she asked, folding her legs under her on the chair. "I needed to get away from work for a while." "Burnout," he nodded. "Something like that. I get it. I used to work in advertising in Seattle, hated every second of it. One day I just quit, moved down here, and decided to try making a living doing what I actually loved." She shrugged. "Best decision I ever made, even if I eat a lot of ramen." Jackson studied her. She seemed so sure of herself, so content with less. He had built an empire and felt empty. She had next to nothing and seemed full. "Do you ever miss it? The city, the money, the excitement?" "Not even a little bit." She smiled. "I mean, I am not going to pretend being broke is fun, but I would rather be broke and happy than rich and miserable." He thought about his penthouse in Los Angeles, the cars he never drove, the parties he attended out of obligation. "That is a good philosophy. What about you? Are you happy?" The question was so direct it caught him off guard. No one ever asked him that. They asked about box office numbers, upcoming projects, deals in the works, never about happiness. "I do not know," he said honestly. "I have not thought about it in a long time." Kira looked at him with something like understanding. "Then maybe this is exactly where you need to be." The days started to blur together in the best way. Jackson woke without an alarm, made coffee, walked the beach until his mind went quiet. Kira was always nearby, working on her illustrations on the porch, tending her garden, or sitting on the sand with a sketchbook. They fell into an easy rhythm. She would wave him over for lunch, or he would bring her coffee in the afternoon. They talked about everything and nothing. She told him about the book she was illustrating, a story about a lost whale finding its way home. He told her about growing up in Colorado, about how he had moved to Los Angeles with $500, and a dream that somehow worked out. He did not tell her about the money, or the fame, or the fact that his last film had grossed $200 million worldwide. He liked that she saw him as just Jackson, the burned-out guy renting the house next door. One evening, Kira knocked on his door holding a bottle of wine. "I finished my illustrations today and I am celebrating. Want to join me?" They sat on the beach as the sun set, drinking cheap wine from plastic cups. Kira talked about the relief of finishing a project, the fear that came next, wondering if the publisher would like it, if kids would connect with it. Jackson listened and felt a pang of recognition. He knew that feeling, that mix of pride and terror. "You really love what you do," he said. "I do. Even when it is hard." She looked at him. "Do you love what you do?" "I used to, I think. Now it just feels like a machine I am stuck inside." "Then step out of the machine." "It is not that simple." "Why not?" He did not have a good answer. Or maybe he did and he just did not want to admit it. He was afraid. Afraid that if he stopped, everything he had built would fall apart. Afraid that his worth was tied to his productivity. Afraid of who he was without the work. Kira leaned back on her elbows, looking at the sky. "You know what I think? I think we spend so much time building things that we forget to live in them. We make these lives for ourselves, and then we are too busy to actually enjoy them." "That is exactly what it feels like." So stop. Just for now, let yourself be here. He looked at her, this woman who barely knew him but somehow understood him better than people he had worked with for years. I am trying. Good. She smiled and clinked her plastic cup against his. To trying. The weeks passed, and Jackson felt something shift inside him. The headaches stopped. He slept through the night. He started noticing things. The way the light changed throughout the day, the sound of seagulls in the morning, the taste of food when he actually paid attention to it. And he noticed Kira. The way she bit her lip when she concentrated on a drawing. How she danced in her kitchen when she thought no one was watching. The sound of her laugh, bright and unguarded. He was falling for her. It was not something he planned or wanted. It just happened, slowly and then all at once. He would catch himself watching for her in the mornings, feel his mood lift when she appeared, find excuses to be near her. It had been years since he felt this way about anyone. His last relationship had ended badly. A model who was more interested in the parties and premieres than in him. Kira was different. She did not want anything from him because she did not know there was anything to want. One afternoon, they drove into town together to get groceries. Crescent Bay had one main street with a handful of shops, a diner, and a bar that looked like it had been there since the 70s. Kira knew everyone, stopped to chat with the woman at the bookstore, waved at the guy pumping gas, introduced Jackson as her neighbor to anyone who asked. He liked the anonymity of it, liked being just a regular guy running errands with a pretty girl. They were loading groceries into her beat-up Subaru when a black SUV pulled up across the street. Jackson did not think much of it until a man got out, looked directly at him, and his face registered shock. It was Marcus, one of the producers he worked with frequently. Jackson's stomach dropped. Marcus walked over, grinning. "Jackson Porter, what the hell are you doing here?" Jackson forced a smile. "Marcus, hey, just taking some time off. I heard you disappeared. Everyone has been freaking out." Marcus looked at Kira, then back at Jackson, his expression knowing. "I can see why you needed the break." Kira was watching the exchange with curiosity, and Jackson could feel the moment slipping away from him. "Marcus, this is Kira. Kira, this is Marcus. We work together sometimes." "Nice to meet you," Kira said politely. Marcus shook her hand, still looking amused. "So you are hiding out here." "Smart. No one would think to look for Jackson Porter in a place like this." "Jackson Porter," Kira repeated, and Jackson heard the question in her voice. "You are messing with me, right?" Marcus laughed. "You know who this guy is?" Kira looked at Jackson, confusion clear on her face. "He said he works behind the scenes in film." "Behind the scenes?" Marcus nearly choked. "He owns Porter Productions. He has produced some of the biggest movies of the last 5 years. This guy is a legend." Jackson wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Kira was staring at him now, and he could see the pieces clicking into place, the betrayal in her eyes. "Marcus, I really need to go," Jackson said tightly. Right, sorry to blow your cover." Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. "Good seeing you, man. We should catch up before you head back." He walked away, and the silence that followed was suffocating. Kira crossed her arms, leaning against the car. "So, behind-the-scenes stuff, nothing glamorous. Kira, I can explain. You lied to me." "I did not lie. I just did not tell you everything." "That is the same thing." Her voice was calm, but he could hear the hurt underneath. "Why did you think I would care, that I would treat you differently?" "Yes, because everyone does." She shook her head. "I thought we were friends. I told you everything about my life, and you could not even be honest about yours." "I liked that you did not know. I liked being just Jackson with you." "You were never just Jackson. You were lying about who you are." She got in the car. "I need to go. Kira, please. I will see you around." She drove away, and Jackson stood in the parking lot feeling like he had just lost something irreplaceable. He tried to give her space, but it was impossible when they lived next door to each other. He saw her on her porch, but she did not wave. She went for walks on the beach at different times, avoiding him. After 3 days, Jackson could not take it anymore. He knocked on her door at sunset. She opened it but did not invite him in. "What do you want?" To apologize, and to explain. "You do not owe me anything. We barely know each other." "That is not true, and you know it." She sighed and stepped outside, closing the door behind her. They walked down to the beach, the waves crashing in the twilight. Kira sat on the sand and Jackson sat next to her, keeping a respectful distance. "I am sorry I was not honest with you," he started. "When I came here, I was completely burned out. I could not think, could not breathe. I just needed to be away from everything, from everyone who knew me as Jackson Porter, the producer. And then I met you, and you treated me like a normal person. You did not want anything from me. You just liked me for me. I have not had that in a really long time. So you lied. I omitted. And I know that is just semantics, but I need you to understand. I was not trying to deceive you. I was trying to protect something that felt really good. Something real." Kira was quiet for a long time, staring at the ocean. "I get it, I do, but it still hurts that you did not trust me enough to tell me the truth. You are right, I should have told you. I was scared that if you knew, everything would change, and I did not want it to change. It changed anyway, I know." He ran a hand through his hair. "For what it is worth, every single thing I told you about myself was true. The burnout, the feeling stuck, all of it. The only thing I left out was the scale of it." She looked at him finally. "What is it like, being that successful?" "Honestly, exhausting. Isolating. Everyone wants something. A job, a connection, a favor. You stop trusting people because you never know if they like you or what you can do for them." He met her eyes. "That is why being here with you has meant so much. You liked me when you thought I was nobody." "You were never nobody, Jackson, not to me." Something in his chest loosened. "Does that mean you forgive me?" "It means I understand, but I need some time to process this. You are not who I thought you were." "Yes, I am. I am exactly who you thought I was. I just have a complicated job and more money than I know what to do with." She almost smiled. "More money than you know what to do with. Must be nice. It is not as great as you would think." "Yeah, well, I would still like to try it." They sat in silence, but it felt less heavy now. After a while, Kira spoke again. "Why did you come here? Out of all the places you could go, why Crescent Bay?" "Because no one knows me here. Because it is quiet. Because I could just be a regular person for a while." "And was it what you needed?" "More than I realized." He paused. "Especially meeting you." She looked at him, and something passed between them, something unspoken but understood. "Jackson, I need to know, what happens when you leave, when you go back to your real life?" "I do not know. I have not thought that far ahead." "You should." "Because I cannot be someone's vacation from reality. I live here. This is my life. I know." "Do you?" She stood, brushing sand from her jeans. "Because from where I am standing, you are a millionaire producer who is going to go back to Los Angeles and forget all about the weird artist girl he met at the beach. That is not going to happen. You do not know that." She walked toward her house, and Jackson watched her go, feeling the distance between them stretch wider than the few feet that separated them. Over the next week, they circled each other carefully. Kira was polite but distant. Jackson gave her space but made small gestures. He fixed the loose step on her porch, left coffee on her doorstep in the morning, slipped a note under her door that just said, "I miss talking to you." On the 8th day, she knocked on his door. It was late, almost 10, and she stood there in pajama pants and an oversized sweater, looking vulnerable. "I cannot sleep. I keep thinking about everything, and I do not know what to do with it. Come in." He stepped aside, and she walked into the living room, arms wrapped around herself. "I am not mad at you anymore," she said. "I am just confused and scared." "Scared of what? Of this? Of you? Of the fact that I have real feelings for someone who is going to leave?" She looked at him. "Because you are leaving, right? This is not permanent." Jackson felt his heart hammering. "You have feelings for me. Do not make me say it again." He crossed the room, standing close enough to see the uncertainty in her eyes. "I have feelings for you too. I have been trying not to because you are right. This is complicated, but I cannot help it. I think about you constantly. You make me feel like a person again, not just a job title or a bank account." Jackson. His name was almost a whisper. "I do not know what happens next. I do not have it figured out, but I do not want to lose this. I do not want to lose you." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that maybe I do not go back, or maybe I go back different, or maybe we figure out something in between. I do not have the answers, but I want to try." She searched his face. "You really mean that?" "Yes." She kissed him. It was sudden and soft and tasted like toothpaste and hope. Jackson wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, and felt like he was finally exactly where he was supposed to be. They stood there in the dim light of the beach house, holding each other like they could make time stop. "This is crazy," Kira murmured against his shoulder. "Completely. I live in a tiny house and eat ramen 3 times a week. I know. And you are a millionaire who produces movies." "Technically, yes." She pulled back to look at him. "How is this going to work?" "I do not know, but I want to find out." She kissed him again, longer this time, and Jackson felt the last of his walls crumble. He had spent years building a career, a reputation, a fortune. None of it had ever felt as important as this moment. They stayed up talking until the early hours of the morning, curled together on the couch. Kira told him about her childhood, growing up in Oregon with parents who encouraged her art but worried it would not pay the bills. About her ex-boyfriend who had cheated on her, which was part of why she moved to Crescent Bay, to start over somewhere new. About her dreams of writing her own children's books, not just illustrating them. Jackson told her about the relentless pressure of his work, the constant fear of failure, the way success had become a trap. He told her about his parents, who had died in a car accident when he was 25, and how he had thrown himself into work to cope with the grief. About the friendships he had lost because he never had time, the relationships that failed because he was never present. "You have been running for a long time," Kira said softly. "Yeah, I did not realize how tired I was until I stopped. So what now?" "Now I stay a little longer, if that is okay with you," she smiled. "That is more than okay with me." The next month was the best of Jackson's life. He extended his rental, ignoring the increasingly frantic calls and emails from his office. He and Kira were inseparable. They explored the coast, driving to tiny towns with strange names and even stranger diners. They cooked together, terrible meals that made them laugh until they cried. They walked the beach every evening, talking about everything and nothing. Kira showed him her work, the whimsical illustrations that brought stories to life. Jackson found himself telling her about the projects he was passionate about, the ones that got buried under commercial demands. "Why do not you make those films?" she asked one night as they sat on his porch, sharing a blanket against the cool ocean breeze. "Because they would not make money, or at least not enough to justify the cost. So you have money, make them anyway." "It does not work like that." "Why not?" "You are the boss, right? You can do whatever you want." He had never thought about it that way. He had spent so long playing by industry rules that he forgot he could make his own. "That is actually not a bad idea. I am full of good ideas." She grinned. "You should listen to me more often." "I plan to." But reality started creeping back in. His business partner called and told him they were losing deals because he was not there. His assistant sent him a list of projects that were stalling without his approval. His accountant needed signatures on documents that could not wait. Jackson tried to handle things remotely, but it was not working. "I need to go back to Los Angeles," he told Kira one morning, "just for a few days. There are things I have to take care of in person." Her face fell, but she nodded. "I understand. Come with me," she blinked. "What?" "Come with me. I want you to see my life there, and I do not want to be away from you." "Jackson, I cannot just drop everything and go to Los Angeles." "Why not? You work from home. You can draw anywhere." "It is not that simple. Kira, I am not asking you to move there, just visit. A few days. Please." She looked uncertain, but finally she agreed. "Okay, but if I hate it, I am coming right back. Deal." Los Angeles was overwhelming. Kira stared out the window of Jackson's car as they drove from the airport to his penthouse in West Hollywood, taking in the traffic, the billboards, the endless sprawl of the city. His apartment was sleek and modern, all glass and steel and expensive furniture that no one ever used. "This is where you live." Kira walked through the space, touching things lightly like she was in a museum. "Technically, yes, but I am never here. It does not feel like you, it feels like a hotel." She was right. He had hired a designer to furnish it, barely looked at the choices, just wrote the check. "I know." That evening, he took her to dinner at an upscale restaurant where the hostess greeted him by name and the chef sent out complimentary dishes. Kira looked beautiful in a simple dress, but he could see how uncomfortable she was, the way she watched the other diners, the prices on the menu, the waiters hovering attentively. "This is too much," she whispered. "What do you mean, all of this? I do not belong here." "You belong wherever you want to be." But he could see the doubt in her eyes. The next day, he brought her to his office, a sprawling space in a building that overlooked the city. His assistant, Caroline, greeted him with relief. "Thank God you are back. We need you to look at contracts, make decisions on casting, meet with the investors." "Caroline, this is Kira." Caroline smiled politely. "Nice to meet you. Jackson, I hate to rush, but you have a meeting in 20 minutes. "Right." He looked at Kira apologetically. "I am sorry, this is going to take a while. You can wait in my office if you want or explore the building. There is a great view from the conference room." "I will just wait." He hated leaving her, but the moment he stepped into work mode, everything else fell away. Meetings bled into each other. People needed answers, approvals, decisions. He barely had time to think, let alone check on Kira. When he finally made it back to his office 4 hours later, she was sitting on the couch, sketching in her notebook. "I am so sorry," he said. "That took way longer than I thought. It is okay. I figured this was what your life is like." There was something in her tone, something resigned, that worried him. "Let me make it up to you. We can go somewhere fun tonight, dinner or a movie or whatever you want." "Actually, there is a work event tonight, a screening for one of our films. I need to make an appearance." "Oh, but you will come with me, right? I want people to meet you." She hesitated. "Jackson, I do not have anything to wear to something like that. We can get you something. There are amazing stores here." "I do not want you to buy me clothes." "Kira, it is not a big deal." "It is to me." She closed her sketchbook. "Maybe I should just go back to the apartment. I do not want you to feel uncomfortable. Just come, be yourself. You will be the most interesting person there." She did not look convinced, but she agreed. The screening was at a historic theater in Hollywood, and the crowd was exactly what Jackson had expected. Actors, producers, agents, everyone dressed to impress and working the room. Kira stayed close to him, and he could feel how out of place she felt. People stopped him constantly, wanting to talk business, pitch ideas, make connections. He introduced Kira every time, but he could see the way people looked at her, trying to figure out who she was and why she mattered. One woman, an actress Jackson had worked with years ago, was particularly dismissive. "So you are an artist," she said to Kira, her tone suggesting that was quaint. "Illustrator, children's books. How sweet. I bet that is relaxing work." "It is actually pretty demanding," Kira said evenly. "I am sure." The actress turned back to Jackson. "We should talk about the project I sent you. I think it is perfect for your company." Jackson tried to steer the conversation back to include Kira, but it was useless. Eventually, Kira excused herself and disappeared into the crowd. He found her outside, leaning against the building, looking small and tired. "Hey, you okay?" "I do not fit here, Jackson." "That is not true." "Yes, it is. This is your world. These are your people. And I am just the girl from the beach who draws pictures for a living." "You are so much more than that. To you, maybe, but not to them." She looked at him. "And I do not know if I want to be part of this world." "You do not have to be. I told you I am figuring things out. Maybe I do not come back to this full time. But you will, eventually. This is who you are." "No, it is not. This is what I do. There is a difference." They stood in silence, the sounds of the city around them, and Jackson felt the fragile thing between them starting to crack. He did not know how to fix it, how to bridge the gap between their lives. They flew back to Crescent Bay the next day, and the tension followed them. Kira was quiet on the plane, staring out the window. When they got back to the beach house, she went straight to her place without saying much. Jackson sat on his porch, feeling lost. He had thought bringing her to Los Angeles would help, would show her that his life was not as glamorous as she feared. Instead, it had done the opposite. It had shown both of them how incompatible their worlds were. The next few days were strained. Kira was polite but distant again, and Jackson felt like he was losing her. He knew he had to make a choice. Stay in Crescent Bay and walk away from everything he had built, or go back to Los Angeles and lose the woman who had reminded him what it felt like to be alive. He thought about it constantly, weighing options, trying to find a solution that did not exist. And then, one morning, it hit him. He did not have to choose. He could build something new. He knocked on Kira's door, and when she answered, he said, "I want to start a production company here." She blinked. "What?" "A smaller one. Independent films, passion projects, the stuff I actually care about. I can work remotely for a lot of it, and when I need to be in Los Angeles, it will just be for short trips. I do not need the big office and the constant meetings. I can build something different, something better." "Jackson, you cannot just upend your entire life for me." "I am not. I am doing it for me. You were right. I have been stuck in a machine, and I do not want to be any more. I want to make films that matter, not just films that make money. And I want to do it from a place where I can actually breathe." He took her hands. "I am not asking you to change your life. I am changing mine, but I want you to be part of it if you will have me." Tears filled her eyes. "You are serious, completely." "That is insane, probably." She kissed him, and it felt like coming home. "Okay, let us be insane together." Jackson spent the next few months restructuring his company. He promoted his business partner to handle the day-to-day operations in Los Angeles and set up a satellite office in Crescent Bay, a small space above the bookstore on Main Street. It was not glamorous, but it was his. He started developing projects he believed in, smaller films with heart and substance. It was terrifying and exhilarating and exactly what he needed. Kira watched him transform, saw him become lighter, more present. They settled into a life together that felt real. He worked in his office, she worked at home, and they met for lunch every day at the diner. They went to farmers' markets on Sundays, hosted dinners for the friends Kira had made in town, spent evenings on the beach watching the sunset. One night, 6 months after he had first arrived in Crescent Bay, Jackson took Kira to their spot on the beach. The sky was clear, stars scattered across the darkness. He had been planning this for weeks, his heart hammering every time he thought about it. "Kira, I need to tell you something." She looked at him concerned. "That sounds ominous." "It is not. At least, I hope it is not." He took a breath. "Before I came here, I thought my life was full. I had success, money, everything I thought I wanted, but I was empty. I did not even realize it until I met you. You showed me what actually matters: connection, presence, love." He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it, revealing a simple diamond ring. "I do not want to go back to who I was before. I want to build a life with you. Marry me." Kira stared at the ring, tears streaming down her face. "Are you sure? This is forever, Jackson, not just a vacation." "I have never been more sure of anything." "Yes, yes, I will marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger and she threw her arms around him, laughing and crying at the same time. They fell into the sand, holding each other, and Jackson felt a peace he had not known was possible. They got married 4 months later in a small ceremony on the beach, just close friends and Kira's family. Jackson's business partner flew in, surprised by how happy Jackson looked, how different he seemed. Kira wore a simple white dress and flowers in her hair, and Jackson could not stop smiling the entire day. Their life together was not perfect. There were still challenges. Jackson still had to travel for work sometimes, and Kira struggled with deadlines and insecurities about her art. But they faced everything together, learning how to balance their different worlds, building something that belonged to both of them. A year after they got married, Kira published her first book, a story about a whale finding its way home. The illustrations were stunning, and the book became a bestseller. Jackson produced his first independent film from Crescent Bay, a quiet drama that premiered at Sundance and won critical acclaim. They celebrated each other's successes, supported each other through failures, and never took for granted what they had. 2 years later, Kira found out she was pregnant. Jackson cried when she told him, overwhelmed by the idea of becoming a father, of having a family with this woman who had saved him in every way that mattered. They turned the extra bedroom in Kira's house into a nursery, painting it pale yellow and filling it with books and sketches of whimsical creatures. Their daughter, Emma, was born on a sunny afternoon in June. She had Kira's green eyes and Jackson's dark hair, and from the moment he held her, Jackson knew that everything he had been through, every mistake and detour, had led him exactly where he needed to be. He thought about the man he had been when he first arrived in Crescent Bay, burned out and hollow, running from a life that was killing him. That man felt like a stranger now. Jackson had found something better than success. He had found purpose, love, and a home in the last place he expected. One evening, when Emma was 6 months old, Jackson and Kira sat on the porch watching the ocean. Emma was asleep in Kira's arms, tiny and perfect. Jackson wrapped his arm around his wife, pulling her close. "You ever miss it?" Kira asked softly. "The old life, not even a little bit." "Not even the excitement, the glamour. This is better than any of that. This is real." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I am glad you came here. I am glad you stayed." "Me too." The sun set over the water, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Jackson looked at his wife and daughter, at the house they had made a home, at the life they had built together, and felt a gratitude so profound it brought tears to his eyes. He had come to Crescent Bay to recover from burnout, to escape a life that no longer fit. What he found was so much more. He found love, he found himself, and he found the courage to build a life worth living. Emma stirred in Kira's arms, making a small sound, and they both smiled. Jackson reached out and touched his daughter's tiny hand, and she gripped his finger instinctively. His heart swelled. "We should go inside," Kira said. "It is getting cold." "1 more minute," Jackson said. "I just want to stay right here." So they did, the three of them together as the stars began to appear overhead. Jackson had spent years chasing success, building an empire, trying to prove his worth. It turned out the only thing that mattered was this: love, family, and the quiet joy of being exactly where you belonged. He had everything he needed, and for the first time in his life, that was more than enough. It was perfect.